Hi everybody. In this video tutorial, I'm going to be showing you the learning assessments and also the engagement activities that you may choose to do for this week, week 4, visual literacy and citation. So let's scroll down first to week 4. And this week, you actually have your choice of engagement activities and learning assessments. Let's go ahead and start with our visual literacy engagement activity. If you choose to do this engagement activity for this week, what we want you to do first is go to Google Image, basically Google Image Search, and we want you to search for one of the following occupations in Google Images: nurse, doctor, librarian, or construction worker. And when you do that, we want you to take a few minutes to review the images that you retrieved while searching that occupation. Then we want you to do a discussion response below in which you answer completely the following questions. First, what was your reaction to the images compared with your own perceptions of the word that you searched for? Second, did you identify any common themes, such as gender and so forth in the images? And why might some common themes emerge? And finally, how do visual images of occupations affect the ways in which we might think of those occupations? And when you answer this discussion for your engagement activity, think about the tutorial that you might have already watched about visual literacy and how we can sometimes formulate different perceptions of ideas, of facts, of people, purely based upon what we are seeing visually. So if you choose to do this engagement activity, I hope you have some fun with this, with Google Images and with one of those 4 occupations. Another engagement activity that you may choose to do for this week is watching another TED Talk. And if you decide to do this engagement activity, we're going to have you watch this TED Talk linked here called The Danger of a Single Story. There is also a transcript of the TED Talk if you would prefer to read that as a supplement, and it's available here as well. So once you watch the TED Talk, and if you read the transcript as well, write a reflection that includes these following bullet points: your reactions, your thoughts, your ideas, or your questions about the topic, how the topic relates to information literacy, and finally, how the topic of the TED Talk relates to your personal experience and or society. Now, in this one, we're not going to be grading grammar or spelling. We're really looking more for your ideas and critical thinking. And we're hoping that this reflection will help you practice thinking about information in a way that is similar to what you're going to do when you evaluate resources for your research topic. So for this one, you really need to have a substantive post. You want to go beyond just, it really made me think, or he or she was a good speaker. That's simply not going to be enough to earn the points for this engagement activity. Really think beyond that and think about how you can answer those 3 bullet points completely once you watch the TED Talk. You also have your choice of doing one or both of our learning assessments for this week. We're going to start with learning assessment number 4, infographic. Now, if you have already watched the tutorial about using Wix and then embedding an infographic into your web portfolio, this is part of what we're talking about. So for this learning assessment for this week, you would actually wind up creating an infographic based upon your topic and think about the facts that you would really want to communicate visually to an audience. What is it that you really want them to know about your topic, and how are you going to make that much more clear in terms of the visual format? So be sure to watch the other video tutorials first about visual literacy and then also about creating a Wix portfolio before you start in on this learning assessment. Now, for your final web portfolio, you are going to have to create an infographic at any rate. So this is a good way of getting a head start on that part of your web portfolio. So what I'd like for you to do first with this one is look at this infographic planning worksheet. Now, you don't have to turn this worksheet in, but it is a good way of helping you think ahead on what you want your infographic to be. So you can make a list on this worksheet for your own purposes of the topic. What is your motivation? What is your interest? What is your expertise? What is the purpose of your infographic? What are you trying to communicate to your audience? And who indeed is your audience for your infographic? For this worksheet too, you can also start identifying several sources of data, because when you get ready to turn in this assignment, you are going to turn in not only the infographic that's embedded into your web portfolio, you are also actually going to turn in a separate document that will be a works cited page or a bibliography. And that bibliography will list the resources that you use to find the sources or the facts that you put into your infographic. So if you decide that you're going to fill out this worksheet, that will sort of help you keep track of your information a lot more easily. And you can also identify and describe the type of graphics that you would like to use for your infographic. The reason you might want to go ahead and do this worksheet first is that it's going to be a good start for using these two programs. You can use PictoChart or you can use Canva to create your infographic. Let's click on PictoChart first. Now, PictoChart is very similar to logging in to Canva and also to Wix. When you click on Login, I'm already logged in. You will actually get a choice of logging in with your Facebook account or other social media account, or you can go ahead and create a free account. So this does not cost anything. You'll get a dashboard like this first. Now, something you're going to see on this dashboard is that I actually have created several infographics already. So I'm going to go back down to this one. This is one that I started to create on the topic that I've been working on, electronic cigarettes. So I decided to call this one Electronic Cigarettes, Know the Facts. And I identified 5 facts about electronic cigarettes that I took from this source of information, the American Lung Association. So I have a citation down here, but I could also include that in my works cited page. But if I wanted to start with a new infographic, I can go over here to infographic, and I'm going to focus on my free templates. So you can pick any of these templates that might look interesting for your infographic. Keeping in mind that whatever you select, this is going to be like working on your Wix portfolio. You are going to have to put a title up here, and you can actually select and you can choose different photos. And again, you're going to need to edit this to correspond with your own information for your infographic. I can go over here to Shapes and Icons, and I can also go to Photos. And if I go here to Discovering Free Beautiful Photos, these photos are actually freely available for me to use within PictoChart. So in other words, they are copyright free, so I don't have to worry about any copyright restrictions or anything like that. So you may be able to find some different things that might be available on here to make your infographic basically even more visually appealing. When you finish with your infographic, you're going to save it, but then you can also preview it to see what it's going to look like. But the most important part here for your purposes will be to download. And you would download this infographic onto your computer as a PNG file. Save it somewhere where you can find it, because the PNG file will be what you upload into the infographic page of your web portfolio. And then that is what you're going to be submitting. So let's cancel this. And let's close this. And we'll go back up here. So for this assignment, you actually will be submitting your website from Wix that you've already published, and we've covered that in the Wix tutorial. But that infographic needs to be embedded into a page labeled infographic on your web portfolio on Wix. So you're actually going to submit 2 items. you would actually go ahead and submit your page on your website, and then your works cited can be presented below the image as page text, or you can actually go ahead and submit the works cited page as a separate file as well, as a downloadable file. Let's go back, and you also have a choice to do learning assessment number 5. Now, learning assessment number 5 deals directly with the citation video tutorial on learning that there are different ways of doing citations and that sometimes they're not always going to be 100% accurate, particularly if you're using a citation manager or a citation generator. So if you choose to do learning assessment number 5, you're going to download this document first. And this document, this worksheet, is what you would complete for learning assessment number 5. So there are 2 parts to this worksheet. For the first part, for each of these citations, you need to identify the type of resource that's being cited. So is it a book? Is it a book chapter? Is it a journal article? Is it a website? Use the elements within it to kind of give you some clues. And then look for an element that is missing from each citation. So for example, a citation might be missing a title, it might be missing an author, it might be missing a page number, it might be missing a journal name. Identify what you think is missing. And as we noted here, sometimes students forget to identify the type of resource that's being cited. So it's very helpful to identify the resource type first, and then that can help you identify the missing element for each of these citations. For part 2, we want you to select 5 resources that are related to the topic that you are working on for this class. Now, these sources should be ones that you could use for an upcoming learning assessment that will be recommended resources. So what you would do with this one is label each resource with its type, and then using a citation generator or citation tool in a database, construct an APA-style citation for each of the 5 resources. And then after each one, describe any corrections that you had to make to the citation that was generated by that citation tool. We've given you a couple of examples here. So this first citation didn't need any corrections, and it was actually a blog post. This second one was a book, but in this particular instance, since this is a major title of a work, in this case a book, the other words of this book title needed to be capitalized. This is the way that it came over in the citation tools generator, but this is what I would actually have to correct to make it 100% correct with APA style. So I'm going to show you an example of what you would do for part 2. We're going to go back to the library's web page, and we're going back to a library database. I'm going to keep my same topic of electronic cigarettes. And under my subjects area, I'm actually interested now in finding a database that might deal a little bit more with social issues, maybe social pressures when it comes to smoking or using electronic cigarettes. And a good one for that is SocIndex with full text. As we've done previously, we're going to an advanced search, and I want to restrict my search to the abstract of articles. I'm going to type in electronic cigarettes or e-cigarettes or vaping. It's going to kind of give me some selections or some choices. And I'm just going to do the word social. So I have 15 results. And when I scroll down here, this one looks kind of interesting. The social norms and beliefs of teenage male electronic cigarette use. That might be good if I'm dealing more with sociological aspects or social pressures on using e-cigarettes. Let's click on the full record for this. This is what we mean by a citation generator or citation tools for part 2 of this learning assessment. I'm going over here to Cite, and here's my APA citation, but If I copy and paste that as one of my 5 citations for this learning assessment, these are the corrections I'm going to have to make. Look at the title of this article. In APA style, except for the first word of the title of an article, the subsequent words of an article title usually are in lowercase. And notice that these are capitalized. So I would have to go through and I would have to put social norms, beliefs, and so forth in lowercase. So that is what I would describe for the corrections that I would need. If you have any questions about how to do either of these learning assessments, again, please do not hesitate to ask me and ask Megan. We're always happy to set up any online appointments through Zoom. If you're here in Emporia, we're happy to visit with you in person in the library as well. Let's go back up. And again, you know that you have your choice of learning assessments according to the grade that you've chosen to aim toward for our class. The engagement activity for visual literacy is due on April 14th. The TED Talk will also be due on probably close to April 14th. The learning assessment number 4 for April 12th is due then. And then finally, the learning assessment number 5 for citation is due on April 14th. Good luck with that. And again, let us know if you have any questions.